But I thought it'd be really nice to do a little palpation of the spine so that we can feel in our body where the thoracic spine is and how it moves. And we'll do that with a partner who will like palpate your spine, and then we'll do like rotations and flexion and extension and side bending. And you'll see like what parts come from your lower back, which we did last time, versus thoracic spine, so that when you're moving in practice, you might have a little bit more awareness and embodiment just by being able to be like, oh, there's my thoracic spine. And like we've just felt this, and I just saw it on somebody as well. So if you guys can partner up, please. Wow, that worked. So this is what we usually call Yogi's Choice. What would we call it here? People's Choice? People's Choice Awards. So normally what we would do is we'd have our partners find our bottom ribs. But I feel like this is an area that is like pretty sensitive for a lot of people, where you don't like want someone like poking in. So no, because you want it below. You want it in the area that we so lovingly often call, like I'm just going to call like the softer flesh, which is supposed to be softer flesh between your hip bones and your lowest rib. Okay, so when you and you gotta like, no matter who you are, you got to kind of like do a little side bending and kind of dig your fingers in there to find that lower rib. Okay? Congestion. Go with your fingers in. It's really funny.
It's a little lower than you think.
It's lower
than I think.
That's
I have to like travel around.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to find the low in the front, but
oh, thank you.
Start in the front and then move back.
Okay, so start in the front and move back. So this is, I learn new things all the time, see? What was most interesting to me when I first started palpating my own ribs, on skeletons there's about this much space between the hips and the lowest rib. Do you know what I mean? Like on a skeleton, not a real person skeleton, but like the ones that hang. So it looks like we have a ton of space, but really it's like a finger's worth, right? So if you feel the top edge of your ribs, there's a chance that there's only that much space between my lowest rib and my hips. And the cool thing is when you side bend, you guys feel that? Your ribs like tuck in. Ah.
So cool.
Well, this was cool. So last time when we did lower back and we were palpating hips and then even like acetabulum, I think a lot of people were so surprised at how low the hip socket is. Do you want to just do that since most of you guys weren't here? Now that you know where the tops of your hips are, put the top of your hand on the top of your hips and put your finger straight down. Fingers straight down. So, yeah, you were here. And then take your right foot out and go back and forth. And can you feel a little bony protrusion over there? That's the head of your greater trochanter. Okay, and so then that would kind of go diagonally into your hip. So last time we talked about how to create support and how to hinge, and this idea of like bending at your ass or your acetabulum, which is your hip socket, which is way down here. So when you bend, we're bending from a way lower place than most people think when they think to bend at their hips. Kind of cool, right? When you start palpating your body, it's a little bit different than we sometimes imagine. Okay. So once you find, Iona talked about maybe coming from the center of your ribs in the front, which makes me super nauseous, so I'm not going to do that, and like going in and all the way down to the side. Once you have your lowest part, begin to walk your fingers back, and you will get to a certain point. So for me, it's like right here where I'm going to hit all like really dense fascia and muscle. So I kind of have to like say like, okay, it's a little bit like a bucket handle. So it's not super accurate, but I'm going to say my ribs end about here. You won't be able to feel them once you get in like an inch or two from the center. Okay, so you can point out to your partner. So choose who is going to be palpated and who's going to be the palpator. If you have a lot of layers on, you might want to pull it up a little bit, or if you're fine, then you're fine. I think yours is fine because it's nice and tight. Okay, so you find what's called T12. So you have 12 vertebrae in your thoracic spine. So the very last one is T12. And this is where rotation is supposed to really start from. I just gave it away. T12, okay. And then I want the people who are being palpated, put your chin down, please. And the people who are palpating, try to find the vertebra that pokes out the most at the top. You're in good hands. She's a physical therapist.
I know, I was so happy. Yeah. I wish she was a massage therapist.
All right, so this is C7, which means it's the very bottom of your cervical spine. If you were to go one up from C7, you can still feel a vertebra, right? Okay, now have that person bring their chin up and that vertebra should disappear like magic. Bring your chin up. Did it disappear? Did you find it? Okay, you did. Okay. Okay, so if it disappeared, then you know you're on C6, so you can move back down to C7. And then I just want you to look at the length of the thoracic spine. So keeping your hand on T12, yeah, and going all the way up. What do you guys think about the length of it? Is it about like the same size that you had in mind, or longer, right? And, yeah, and when we looked at the lumbar spine last time, it looks way shorter than we envision on a skeleton or in pictures until we do a forward bend. And then back bends, there tends to be one, like between two vertebrae where there's a big hinge. So the thoracic spine, this is the area. So everybody who is being palpated, I want you to take a nice strong stance, put a little bend in your knees, and then actively hug your legs together like you're squeezing a block. Keep your hips pointing forward, whatever forward is for you. And then I want you can take your hands to opposite shoulders and begin to rotate kind of core, heart, head last, hips are forward. And notice the palpators if the rotation goes at all below your fingers. And then notice where the most rotation is happening between your fingers. And lower, just keep your hips without moving. Okay, and then come back to center. And then I want you to go ahead and round your back. So this is called flexion of the thoracic spine. I want you to round your back as much as you can. And just noticing now when they round their back, like how much the space in between your fingers change. So quite clearly there is flexion of the thoracic spine. A lot of people get stuck in this flexion. And then you're going to lift your chest up. And everyone who's being palpated, you're going to imagine that you're going to attempt to kind of do like a baby cobra or a cobra. So you're going to stand all the way up, and then try to do a cobra. And I want you to notice, is that happening in the thoracic spine or lower back? And please try to decipher between shoulder blades moving and spine moving. Good. And then, Walter, just tuck your chin more when you do that. And then go ahead, come back up. And then let's just do side flexion. So you can take your hands to your shoulders and bend to one side. Oh, that feels good. And then to the other side. And back up. And then you can put your arms down. What did you guys find with extension? Extension is this movement.
I think mine was coming from my lower back.
Yeah.
Couldn't figure out how to change that.
I'm kind of wishing I brought my skeleton right now, but I didn't. The way that the spinous processes come off the thoracic spine, it almost looks like little beaks off of a bird, not quite a duck, because that would be like this, like a bird whose beak goes like this. And they kind of go like this. And so when you try to do extension, almost all extension comes from the lower back. So when we do all these heart openers in yoga, we're really mostly just trying to get to neutral. And anything beyond that is really pushing in a direction that's not necessarily healthy for the upper back. So most extension should all come from lower back, and then the rest of it is the movement of the shoulder blades and the head moving back. But the thoracic spine itself doesn't really come past neutral too well, even though so much of our practice has sometimes been, or for a few decades has been around this movement, which again, this is my shoulder blades. My spine's not moving, actually. My spine doesn't move a lot in general, like this is it. So this is my shoulder blades, not my spine, which we'll look into second half of the day, palpating shoulder blades, which is awesome. Especially if you have a massage therapist partner, then it's really awesome. Do we have any massage therapists in here? Bummer. I was gonna ask you to demo on me. Okay, let's switch partners, please. Okay, so the person being palpated, you can find your own 12th rib. And then, yeah, that little side flexion back and forth. And then working your fingers. And remember when you work your fingers back, it kind of goes back and like diagonally up. Not like a sharp diagonal, but there is like, the ribs really kind of look like bucket handles. On like a beach bucket. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So a lot of times when we're trying to get more rotation in yoga poses, we'll like drop a hip. But really if you wanted to work on getting rotation from the spine, you can hug your legs in and really work on making that rotation start to come from the spine. Okay, so let's everyone, like a little bend in your knees, feet are making contact with the earth. There's a little bit of a hug in to get that space and support. And then take an inhale, and then exhale, twist to the right. Oh, sorry guys, come back towards center. I'm sorry, we didn't get the top part. I got excited. Okay, so find the little bump up top. Everyone, you can put your chins down, please. So the vertebra that protrudes the most at the top. Can you get it through the jacket? Yeah, that'll be much easier. Okay, are you okay tucking your chin? Yeah. Okay. So it's gonna be probably like right here. And that's gonna be about C7. Okay, and then you go up one. And then when they lift their head, if it disappears, then you know that you're on C6. And then you're going to move back down to C7. And really the first thoracic vertebra is right below that, but I feel like C7 is just a good marker that you won't really lose it. Okay? So now that you have your finger at the top and the bottom of the thoracic spine, go ahead and take an inhale. You have your strong, steady base. And exhale, twist to the right, navel, heart, shoulders. And back towards center. And then you inhale, and you exhale, twist to the left. And back towards center. I want to do something with this group that we didn't do with the other group. Now I want you to go into spinal flexion, but not like, we're not going to do the whole spinal flexion just yet. Just a little bit of spinal flexion. And now rotate right with the hips neutral. Okay, and then try to rotate left. And then come back towards center. So I'll just give that quick cue that if you are doing a rotation in yoga, or I used to work with a lot of golfers, if the spine is rounded like this, rotation from the spine is not possible. I mean, if it happens, it's very little. So just by getting first almost in like extension and then rotation, you can go a lot further. Okay, so go ahead and go into as deep a flexion as you can, and the palpators, just notice how much space is added in between your fingers. So you can get this like idea of like, wow, there are really discs in between the vertebra. When you move, there is actually like a squeezing and releasing, like you would a sponge, of creating more space and then less space. So clearly they have less space on the front of the vertebrae and of the discs and more on the back. And then go ahead and come all the way up. And go ahead and go into your little cobra. So I like, of course, an inhale up, strong down through the feet. And I would ask you even here to try to inhale more into the back of your body as you're doing this movement. And palpators, just notice how much is happening through the shoulder blades, the lower back. And then slowly come right back up towards center. Side flexion to the right. And come back up towards center. And side flexion to the left. And back up towards center. Good. And then you can take your hands off. Anyone feel anything or notice anything new that they didn't notice before?
Just like you said, the length of and the lack of movement, like you're going, you know.
For extension. Yeah. And so a lot of things that clearly, like because my background was both athletics and yoga, you're going to hear a lot of things coming from those perspectives, which is that a lot of things that we cue in yoga are almost for a body that comes in with short hamstrings and a kyphotic back and shoulders that are high. And when we cue the same way all the time, then what happens on the other end is this with shoulders that are way too low and cause strain in the neck. And so there is this middle ground of just shoulders that are as low as the base of the neck and ribs that are like in and centered, and places where we can still move, like when we were dancing, where you can like do all what I used to call hippie dance. I don't know if that's like inappropriate to call. Is that, yeah, is that inappropriate? I'm asking, I'm like, guys, is that okay? It was first when I was in Hawaii, and my friend's mom, who like renamed herself Kimana, and like it was the first time I ate everything organic, and there was no meat in the house, and we ate like wheat grass juice, like everything that I had like never done before. And then we just turned on music, and I was like, oh, we're hippie dancing. I fit in right here, and like it just felt good. So anyway, that's where that comes from. So where were we? Thoracic spine, yes. So yeah, that's it. That was the whole shebang for that one. Good?
Yeah. Well, you talked about like where the space comes from in terms of in between the vertebrae, and like it almost was like a silly putty kind of like squishy thing. It's like a slinky almost. Like I never really like thought about like being able to create that space.
I like that you brought that up. One thing is that I brought a slinky to my last class for that same exact purpose. Because something that, that Katie said last time, if you don't mind, it is recorded anyway, was we were practicing breathing into the back body. And we all kind of notice when we go like this that the breath shortens and there's this feeling of depression. But when we learn to breathe into the back side of the body, your verbiage was when one door closes, another door opens, right? And that there was like this rainbow suddenly available to us. So that now in cat-cow, instead of this always having to be exhale, inhale, that this could actually be inhale because your lungs are biggest on the back side of your body. And so if you think of that this doesn't have to be a negative position. This can be like, I'm coming in, I'm coming out, right? Anything that's like habitual, no matter which one it is, can be unhealthy and draining and too much. But when we learn how to breathe into all sides of our body and kind of like, oh, and then I'm getting more space here. And then here, it's like, it can be kind of sweet. All right, let's take, I'm taking the cues from the class here. Let's take a little break. I would say don't eat too much because we're about to do third chakra movement, including breath work. So like a little snack, whatever you need to do, and then we'll come back and do a little